I just want to be able to eat healthy-ish vegan food at an affordable price. But just this year alone, food prices are predicted to rise around 10%. In fact, just the other day, I was commenting on how something that used to cost $14 at my local Costco now costs $18. So it's definitely no secret that food prices are on the rise, but what does seem to be a secret is how to actually save money on groceries. And I'm not just talking about clipping coupons, but real tangible tips that you can start using right away. So with that, let's get into my top 12 tips for saving money on groceries, including ones that I wish I had been doing sooner. If you've heard this tip before, there is a reason for that. It is because it's true. Buying produce that is in season and or local means that you're not necessarily paying for the high price that it costs to get the food to you. So as you'll probably notice with fall coming, you'll start to see a lot more pumpkins, squash, apples, etc. And that is because they are just more readily available as these crops start coming into the stores. Now, of course, you'll probably always be able to find a pint of raspberries or blueberries somewhere, but guess what? When they are out of season, they are going to be much more expensive than they are in summer. I recently subscribed to something called OddBunch, which is specific to the Greater Toronto area. And what they do is they take produce that would otherwise be thrown out because maybe it's not visually perfect enough to sell at the supermarkets, and they sell it at a discounted price. And there are plenty like this in the US as well. There is Misfits Market, Imperfect Foods, Hungry Harvest. I'll actually link some of those down below in the description box in case you want to check them out. So these are a great option to get produce at a discounted price if they offer this service in your area. Or another alternative to this might be a CSA or farm box. CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture, and it's usually a monthly subscription box where you can get produce from your local farmers at a lower price than it would be at the grocery stores. Now, of course, this isn't always going to be the cheaper option across the board. You might need to do some price comparisons of your CSA or Imperfects box compared to your local produce, but I know, like in our case, I have done the calculations for the OddBunch box versus my regular No Frills store, and it is so much cheaper to buy the OddBunch produce. Now, maybe not every grocery store has this, but if yours does, this can be a hidden little gem. In the produce area, there's often a little section or shelf of items that are still perfectly good, but maybe they're a little wilted or not as fresh as they used to be, but they are on major discount. So next time you're in the produce section, keep an eye out for this shelf. Usually, when you buy a large amount of something, the price for individual units tends to be lower. For example, I bought this 10 kg bag of black beans for $20 at Costco, which is 20 cents per 100 grams. And even comparing it to some of the cheapest options at my local No Frills, it is still about half the price in terms of price per gram. Now, while it may seem like buying in bulk is a great deal, and it definitely can be, it isn't always cheaper, and let me explain why. If you don't actually use the items that you buy in bulk and you end up letting them expire and having to throw them away, then of course you're not going to be saving money. And another thing that I've actually found myself guilty of is not to use more of something just because it's there. Now, this isn't really a problem with things like beans and grains that I buy in bulk, but if it's something more delicious like chips or pretzels or chocolate chips, then I do have to be a little more careful not to use it all up right away. Buying more should not equal using more, if that makes sense. I think there's a common misconception that buying frozen produce isn't as healthy as fresh, and that's really not true. In fact, some people say that frozen is actually healthier because that produce is picked at its peak and it's flash frozen, which means it's going to retain its vitamins and minerals, versus fresh is going to lose some of those nutrients over time. Not to mention how much less expensive it's going to be. Let's just take a look at raspberries, for example. Currently at my No Frills, they are coming in at around $3 per 100 grams, versus these frozens that I just bought were $1.15 per 100 grams. Granted, they were on sale, which is why I stocked up and bought 2 of them, but even their non-sale price puts them at $1.50 per 100 grams. So in summer, I do tend to buy a lot of fresh produce. It's in season, you can usually find some great deals, and you just can't beat the texture. But if you are on a tight budget, do not forget about frozen. It can definitely be the cheaper option. I swear granola has to be one of the most expensive items at the grocery store. I see it for like $4, $5, $6, $7 sometimes, and I used to buy those. My husband loves granola, and I used to think,
it's such a pain to make it at home. I'm just gonna buy the store-bought version.
But let me tell you, after doing a quick price comparison, I was like, whoa, we are making this at home from now on. Not to mention, you can control the ingredients, so it's usually a little bit healthier that way as well. So I like to do homemade granola, jam, trail mix, and of course, I do all my beans from scratch. I don't buy canned anymore. And just recently, I tried homemade fruit leather for the first time, and it was actually so easy and delicious. I'll link that video down below in case you want to check it out. Now, I personally do not have any backyard space and therefore no garden, but I have still managed to grow some small items at home. Herb plants are pretty inexpensive, and as long as you tend to them, they will continue to grow. You can also regrow lettuce and green onion by keeping the roots in water, and sprouts. These are by far my most favorite thing to grow at home because they are so easy and they turn out so well. Alfalfa sprouts are usually, what, $2.50 or $3 a box at the grocery store, maybe a little more if they're organic, versus this whole bag was only $5, and it's gotta be the equivalent of about 10 or 15 boxes of sprouts. It is such a good deal, and even if you don't have access to specific sprouts like these, you can use regular legumes for sprouting, such as green mung beans. It's a very similar process, just soak, drain, and rinse, and you'll be able to grow them into edible sprouts. My husband has forced me to do a monthly budget for about 5 years now. We started when we were world traveling for a year because we were on a tight budget and really couldn't run out of money. And I say forced me, but of course I am joking. He actually really inspired me to learn to budget, and this practice turned out to be so beneficial to our money saving goals that we continued on even after the trip was over, and we still do it to this day. Now, there are a couple different ways you could do this. We usually just make a monthly grocery budget and make sure we stay under that. You could also include eating out in this monthly budget, or you could keep it in a separate column. If you are specifically trying to cut back on how much you spend at restaurants, you could definitely keep that category separate and compare how much you spend on groceries versus eating out, and that way you'll be able to see if you really do need to cut back or not. And if you're more like me and spend a lot at the grocery store but you don't really know how or on what, you might want to spend a month tracking individual purchases. This can be really eye-opening to see where in your grocery budget you're spending the most, whether it be on snack foods or convenience foods or something else. Usually for me, it's something like fancy vegan cheeses, so this has really helped me to see where I'm spending that extra money and be able to cut back on those purchases if needed. Little known fact, looking at prices of two items side by side doesn't always help you see which one is cheaper. You actually want to compare price per gram or price per ounce or whatever unit of measurement the item is in. Now, a lot of grocery stores do this for you already. If you take a look under the price, you'll see this very tiny value, which is price per 100 grams. Now, if your store doesn't do this, or even if it's just too tiny to read, you can actually calculate this yourself. Take the price first, then divide by the grams or ounces or whatever unit of measurement it's in. This is now the price per gram. So if we compare this one versus this one, you can see the price per gram is lower here, so this is the one we want. So you can do this for grams, pounds, ounces, kgs, etc. Always just put in the price first and then the unit of measurement. Do make sure though that when you're comparing two items, they are both in the same unit, so both in grams or both in ounces. You get the idea. This one is pretty self-explanatory, and I wouldn't be surprised if you've heard it before, but it is true. Hungry shoppers spend more money. You end up buying things you don't need, and I feel like you end up buying the less healthy items as well because your brain is in that mindset of, I just need some food right now, whatever looks delicious. So I used to do this one a lot, and I actually still to this day have to remind myself to either eat before I go shopping, or if that is not possible, then to stick to the list. Which brings me to my next tip, make a list, but even before that, make a plan. Aside from shopping hungry, I noticed that I used to overspend all the time if I didn't have a plan. I would go into the store and just be like, this looks good, oh, I could make something with that. And boom, suddenly I've got half the store in my cart. So ever since I got back into meal prep, I have gotten back into the routine of plan first, then make your shopping list, then hit the grocery store, and I have saved a lot of money this way. Now, if you do want to learn more about meal prep and how it has saved us so much money on groceries, I've left that link in the pinned comment down below. When you do make your meal plan and shopping list, it is also important to take inventory of what you have before going to the store. How many times have you ended up with 2 or 3 of the exact same item because you thought you were out and it turns out you had some in your pantry already? For me, it's happened a lot. Not to mention, just clearing out your pantry or keeping an inventory list can help you use up some of those items you already have. For example, if I have raspberries in my freezer already, do I actually need that second or third fruit just to add into my oatmeal? Or if we have pasta to use up and I'm in the mood for a stir-fried rice, even though I have none of those ingredients, it's probably better just to make the pasta instead. So I've found that putting priority on eating what we already have has helped me cut spending quite a bit. So did I forget anything from this list? I am sure that I did. If you have a tip you'd like to share, leave it in a comment down below. And if you would like more information on how meal prep can save you money, I would love to have you check out the Let's Eat Plants meal prep course. I've left all that info in the pinned comment down below. Meal prep has been a game changer for us and our grocery spending, so definitely go check it out if you're interested. And with that, let's eat plants, and I'll see you guys next time.